In 1997, the then 29-year-old American Bobbi McCaughey was suddenly world news. The young woman was pregnant with septuplets, and until that moment, no septuplets had ever survived childbirth. Bobbi and her husband, Kenny, were about to experience the most difficult months of their lives. The couple was definitely facing a big adventure with many obstacles ahead. Prepare yourself for one of the most extraordinary and inspiring stories of this century. Bobbi and Kenny already had one daughter, Michaela, but they still wanted another baby. This required medical help because they could not have children naturally. This is an intensive process that requires many checks. During the ultrasound, it was revealed that there was not one embryo but 7. Kenny still remembers his first reaction when the doctor confirmed that there really were 7 children. He said, "No, seriously." The young couple admitted that they experienced pure fear when they first heard they were expecting septuplets. However, it wasn't long before they got used to the idea. At that time, nobody could have imagined how the delivery would go. The couple was quite anxious because the birth of their first daughter hadn't gone well either. Bobbi already felt her belly was growing much faster than during her previous pregnancy, which made sense because there were 6 extra babies in her womb. At one point, her belly was so big that she wondered if her body could handle it. Bobbi explained how bizarre the size of her belly had become. When sitting, her belly came down to her knees, covered in stretch marks. She became increasingly worried about her body. In addition to all the physical pain, another major problem arose. The physical pain was not the worst part of the pregnancy. The young couple also found themselves in financial trouble, and the babies weren't even born yet. However, the couple tried not to worry too much and prayed for better times. Just when Bobbi and Kenny thought things were going to get better, the doctors presented them with a difficult dilemma. Since this was not a normal pregnancy, Bobbi had to undergo more hospital checkups than usual. At one point, the doctors suggested an option called selective reduction. In other words, they wanted several embryos to be terminated to give the others a greater chance of survival. Meanwhile, Bobbi and Kenny had received a lot of media attention, and soon millions of people had opinions about their situation. The couple's decision shocked the world. Septuplets had never survived childbirth before. But Kenny and Bobbi decided they wanted to keep all the children. Bobbi's instinct told her she would make it. She said, "We put it in God's hands and trust Him that it will be all right." Bobbi and Kenny received hundreds of letters, but not all of them were positive. For every 10 positive letters the couple received, there was one in which people expressed angry, negative reactions. Some people found such a large family a waste of resources and thought the family was exploiting media attention. Fortunately, there was also positive news in their lives. With 7 children on the way, the house where Kenny and Bobbi lived would be way too small, but they could not get a mortgage for a larger house. A very generous donor gave the family a huge house where they would have plenty of room for 8 children to grow up. They also received a huge number of diapers, an annual supply of macaroni, and a new large car. The tension was already high, but Bobbi felt relatively fine until her 28th week, when she felt something change. Bobbi felt that it would not be long before she was going to give birth. On November 19, 1997, when Bobbi was 30 weeks along, the contractions started. At that time, Bobbi had twice the belly circumference of the average pregnant woman. The delivery started 9 weeks before the due date. A team of more than 40 specialists was on hand to help during the delivery, which had been planned to perfection. Everyone was prepared for every scenario. To everyone's surprise, the birth was not chaotic at all, and within 7 minutes, all 7 babies were born. The birth was done via C-section as planned, and no one in the room could keep their eyes dry when it turned out that all 7 babies were alive. Miraculously, all 7 babies survived. There were 4 boys and 3 girls. As expected, they were much smaller than normal babies because they were born so early. However, after months of special medical attention, the babies were finally allowed to go home. Incidentally, it was quite a task to come up with 7 names, but luckily, Bobbi and Kenny chose 7 beautiful names. In order of birth, the children were named Kenny Jr., Alexis, Natalie, Kelsey, Nathan, Brandon, and Joel. After 3 months and 10 days, the babies were allowed to go home, so the family could finally be together forever. Unfortunately, not all the children were completely healthy. 2 children, Alexis and Nathan, were born with cerebral palsy, which made it difficult for them to talk and walk, but all the children were otherwise in perfect health. When the brand new 10-person family had just settled into their new home, they heard that a very famous person wanted to contact them. The family was invited by none other than Oprah Winfrey to come to her show. There, Bobbi and Kenny explained how difficult it was to raise so many children, but that they were very happy. They also revealed how many diapers they used per day. The 7 babies used 52 diapers and drank 42 bottles a day. Raising the babies was not only enormously time-consuming, but also extremely expensive. Fortunately, Bobbi and Kenny had come up with a very clever plan. As a family of 10, finances had to be handled smartly. Money does not grow on trees, and they couldn't just borrow it. In the beginning, they received many donations, but those became fewer over time. With 8 growing children, it would become challenging. Bobbi and Kenny revealed how much they saved in groceries through smart purchases. Nobody knows exactly how they got it done, but the family only spent around $300 on groceries a month. At the time, the average for families consisting of only 4 people. As the years passed, they had to come up with more clever strategies. Raising 8 children turned out to be a full-time job. Fortunately, they received help from as many as 35 volunteers who helped with chores and cleaning. They started to grow their own vegetables in the garden, which also saved money on food. Meanwhile, another famous person wanted to meet the children. At that time, George W. Bush was the President of the United States, and he wanted to meet the Septuplets in person. Partly because of this, the children got a great deal of media attention, and the parents had to make a difficult decision again. Many TV stations wanted to portray the lives of the children. This could have earned the family a great deal of money, but they decided not to pursue this and instead chose to raise the children as privately as possible. They did, however, make exceptions for special moments. Bobbi and Kenny did not want their children constantly living close to cameras, but every year they allowed a TV special to be made for the children's birthday. After a few years, the world got a special update again. On the 13th birthday of the 7 siblings, a documentary was made that gave a glimpse into their special lives. For example, they blew out a total of 91 candles for their birthday. In their teenage years, the children experienced many difficulties, but also many fun things. Alexis and Nathan both had a handicap that made it difficult for them to walk independently, but Nathan did not leave it at that. He showed tremendous perseverance and, after spinal surgery, taught himself to walk without help. Alexis also started to do great things in her life, making her an example for many girls. Alexis participated in beauty contests for people with disabilities and was named Teen Miss Dream Made True in 2013. She also academically ranked in the top 15% of her class. When it came to schooling, Bobbi and Kenny made a special choice. The first few years, Bobbi and Kenny taught the children themselves at home. But when they got older, they decided to send the children to school. Something happened that the children had never experienced before in their lives. At school, the children were separated from each other for the first time in their lives. They ended up in separate classes, made friends by themselves, and developed individually. They had made another big step in their lives. The children then went to middle school and high school, where they developed independently with their own unique characteristics. For example, Alexis loves to study, and Kenny Jr. is known as the class clown. The siblings are enormously musical and were always seen with the school band. They performed on special occasions and had a lot of fun doing so. When they turned 16, this was definitely a milestone that the media wanted to portray. In America, you are allowed to drive when you are 16, so everyone wondered how the siblings would do this. Their parents could never afford cars for all of them, so they all had to look for jobs to pay for their own driver's licenses and cars. On November 19, 2015, all 7 children turned 18 and graduated from high school. 4 of them went on to study at a university, and 2 went together to another school to continue their studies. One of the brothers, however, decided to go in a completely different direction. Brandon decided to join the Army after high school. He always had a passion for everything related to the Army, so no one was surprised when he joined. Now that the children are 21, they are starting to become adults. Kenny Jr. has founded his own company, and Brandon is successful in the Army. Alexis is becoming a teacher. Kelsey and Natalie are now completing their studies, just like Joel and Nathan, who are very interested in computer technology. Now that the children are leaving the house one by one, Bobbi and Kenny have to change their lifestyle considerably. "We are very proud of how our children grew up," says Bobbi. Fortunately, they don't have to cook as much, which makes life a little cheaper. They even decided to pass on the huge house that they had been given to another family who needed more space. How wonderful it is to see that this family grew up so beautifully.